Hey, today we're going to have a personal, in-depth talk with Prepper Potpourri. And today we're going to find out some stuff about her that you just wouldn't find out from watching her videos. So let's jump right into it.
Welcome to this community. I'm an avid prepper and oath keeper, and I'm certified to teach firearms and the use of deadly force. If you want to learn actual prepping skills and how to protect yourself legally, then please subscribe and also click the bell icon so you won't miss whenever a video is released.
Prepper Potpourri, before we start with the questions, I just really want to tell you how much I really enjoy your channel. You're so easy and relaxed. And even when you talk about sometimes controversial videos, you're very even-headed. And your videos cover such a broad range of everything about preparedness. I've learned so much from your videos, even preparing common prepper foods and everything else. So kudos to your channel. So let's go ahead and start with question number one here. So the first question that we'd like to know from you is, what got you started into preparing? What made you decide to start prepping? Was there any one event that happened that made you say, man, I really got to start prepping? Or did you just kind of wake up one day and just decide you needed to be into preparedness?
You know, that's a great question. I've often thought about it, and I can't say there was one, triggering event or wake-up call, as people say, because they had a hurricane or a wildfire or something in their life made them decide, I need to prep, I need to become more self-sufficient. I can't say I ever had an event like that. For me, it was more of a gradual progression. I think my gateway to prepperdom might have been gardening. I got into organic gardening and met a lot of people through that. And if you take all the effort to have a great garden and grow vegetables, fruit, whatever, you want to learn how to preserve that harvest so you have that bounty all season long. So I learned how to dehydrate and how to can, and even how to freeze food so I could enjoy it all year long. Well, that's kind of on the road to prepperdom, I think. And then I became involved as a 4-H leader when my youngest son was young, and he learned how to raise rabbits. So we kind of learned that together, and I met a lot of people through 4-H that were homesteaders, so to speak. So I gained a lot of skills from them. And once my youngest son was done with raising rabbits, I decided to do something I always wanted to do, and that was raise chickens, because there's nothing like the taste of a home-laid egg from a chicken. It really is different, the color of the yolk, the taste, everything. So then I got into raising chickens. And for the last 20-some years, we've lived a little bit more rural suburbia. And we have a well, and when we lose power, we also lose the use of our well. And so I learned to be prepared, because once we lost our power when it was 0 or below 0 for 3 days before Christmas, and I learned what can we do to stay warm, what can we do to cook our food, and how do we take care of ourselves without having fresh water. So that was another puzzle piece, I guess, in prepperdom. And I'm still learning. About 5 years, I always wanted to own a gun, but never did while my children were at home. They moved out, and I thought, I'm gonna buy a gun. So I bought my first gun, which was a Kimber 1911, and I still love it, and it's still my favorite gun. But then I got involved into shooting, and so that opened up more doors. So for me, it's a continual journey. I learn stuff from all the people out there in YouTube, and from reading, and from practicing skills. So I'm still on my road, my journey to prepperdom, and it'll probably end when I'm 6 feet under. I should add here what kind of prepper I am, because I am not a prepper that preps for the apocalypse. If that happens, I probably won't make it. I am more of an everyday prepper. I prep for small events. I mean, even such as I see, okay, the toilet paper roll is getting low. I put out another one right next to it so we never run out of toilet paper when we need it by the toilet. That's a very small prep. And then I prep for everyday things by having an extended pantry so I don't have to run out to the store. I have what I need, and in case we would be without power for an extended period of time or maybe snowed in, I have the food that I need to provide for my family. And of course I do a lot of canning and preparing food that way. And I also prep for some bigger events, such as we put in a manual water pump in our basement, so even if we lose power, we're still able to pump water into the house, which is a great resource. So I prep for a lot of things, and I made a video that said I'm more of a just in case prepper, just in case something happens. And so I don't have to say, if only I would have, you fill in the blanks. So that's what type of prepper I am. I don't have an underground bunker. I don't belong to a survivalist group. And for those of you who do, that is fine. But for me, it is just an extension of my everyday activities.
So we want to know is what has shaped you into the person that you are today? What did you do when you were younger and before you had the prepping channel that you have now?
Well, I think I was shaped in that I was the last born of all my siblings. My mother was almost 48, my dad was 50. My mother was born in 1907, my dad in 1905, and I was born in 1955. And my oldest sibling, my sister, was 26 years older than me. And I had two brothers. The closest to me was 13 years old. And my oldest brother, well, let's put it this way. He dated the mother of my best friend in high school before she met her husband. So great span. And maybe it was almost like being raised by your grandparents. It was very good, but they had a lot of what I'm going to call old-time knowledge. Both of them grew up on farms, although they said they ran as fast as they could to the city because farm life was a lot of hard work. My mother was an excellent cook from scratch, and she baked bread every day. I wish I would have learned more of her skills at the time. Fortunately, I did not. And both my parents we'd go for a walk in the woods and they'd identify all the plants, and we'd go mushrooming every spring looking for morel mushrooms. So I got an appreciation of the outdoors. And my father loved to grow things, so I think that's part of where my gardening appreciation came from. And both my father and my older brothers loved to fish and to hunt, so I learned some gun safety and things through them. So I think I grew up kind of with two generations in the household. My parents, who were most people's grandparents' age, and my brothers, who were most people's parents' ages. Anyway, I've learned a lot from all of them, and I'm still practicing much of it today. Unfortunately, both my parents are gone. My father only made it to 77, my mother to 100, and she was active just about to the day she died. And I have lost my sister and both my brothers already. So, but I learned a lot from family and family experience. And as for my background, my parents also really encouraged me. They thought I could do anything and do it well. They were so proud of anything I did. And I really excelled in school. I did very well. But I grew up with thinking I could accomplish stuff. I had a lot of self-confidence. I was the first female president of our skiing group, where I actually met my husband at a local ski resort. He was a ski instructor. I was a bartender in college when most of my girlfriends were cocktail waitresses. I am the only one of my friends who kept their maiden name when they got married. I started my own business in my 40s, and it became a very successful medical billing company. So I grew up to be independent, be self-confident, and not kind of be closed in by gender rules. I don't know how else to explain it, but there's great freedom in that, I think. So I owe a lot to my family upbringing and the self-confidence they installed. Oops, I forgot to mention my hobbies. Obviously making YouTube videos. My channel, I try to have a prepping related video out every Tuesday morning and every Thursday evening, something that is more cooking or gardening related. Because the name of my channel is Prepper Potpourri, and I am kind of interested in a lot of different subjects. But for other hobbies, I am an avid scrapbooker, and I prepare scrapbooks for my grandchildren. I love to travel, and I've been very lucky. I've been to all 50 states, including Hawaii and Alaska. I've been to Canada. I've been to Mexico. Not as much to Europe, believe it or not. I've really only been to Germany and Europe. Enjoyed it a lot, though. I was amazed that you could get beer at McDonald's. What a difference from here. Also, I've been to Peru, Egypt, which was absolutely fascinating. I mean, the whole countryside is a museum, it seems like. The Netherlands, Japan, China, Thailand, Australia. And I had a great experience where I got to actually sleep out in the outback for a couple nights under the stars, and it was just so beautiful. But my favorite has always been going to Malaysia. I've been there twice and just love Borneo. I love the people, and I love walking in the jungle. It's just a very interesting country. So I would love the opportunity to go to Africa, other than Egypt. Egypt is part of Africa. And see Vietnam and maybe Russia and some other sites. So there's still plenty of traveling I'd like to do.
So something that surprises people about me when they find this out about me, but when they find out that I'm a practicing Orthodox Quaker, they're usually surprised about that for me, because with my job, and I'm a firearms instructor and stuff like that. So why don't you tell us, share with us, anything that would surprise your viewers, something that would surprise them about you.
Well, I'm not sure if this is a secret, but I've always been kind of geeky, I guess. Yeah, a geek. I loved reading science fiction when I was a teenager, and when I got to college, I attended the Confusions in Ann Arbor. That's a science fiction convention. And I was fortunate enough to meet Robert A. Heinlein, Joe Haldeman, Frederick Pohl, and many others, and actually get to talk to them one-on-one. It was a fantastic experience. But going to a science fiction convention, definitely geeky. And then when I graduated with my master's degree, I rewarded myself. I bought myself a Commodore 64 computer. And that computer probably had the computing capacity of today's Furby, I think. But there really wasn't much software when I bought it. I had to learn BASIC, and then I got involved with the local computer group. And again, it was all guys. I was the only female in there, and they all were very nice in helping me, but learned a lot about computers. And then our club kind of went into the dark side, where we copied a lot of different programs. In those days, it was that huge 5 1/4, whatever it was, floppy disk, and it could take, over a half hour to copy a program in the beginning. I think we got it down to 15 minutes, and we thought it was fantastic. And I had this great library of all these different programs that I never used, except maybe the Sticky Bears alphabet or whatever for the kids. But learned a lot from meeting these guys, and a lot of these guys went on to actually create their own software companies or be network advisors in big companies. So very interesting, but again, pretty darn geeky. And then what we used for our monitor? It was a TV. And when we got the Commodore 64, it came with a tape drive. That's right, like a tape. And I had to spend another $200, I believe it was, to actually get the 1541 disk drive. Now I'm sure it's in a museum somewhere. Well, Then when my boys were younger, they loved comics, and I had loved them as a child also. And so got involved going to the comic book stores with them and learned about Comic-Cons. And we would go every year to the Chicago Comic-Con. And after the first couple years, we volunteered, and we had a blast. I mean, I ended up doing crowd control for Insane Clown Posse and Gene Simmons, and gradually I ended up kind of the head of the programming for volunteers, and I got to meet both William Shatner and Jean-Luc Picard, and so many other countless TV actors or movies, and the real artists behind the comic books. And I got to meet Stan Lee. Everybody knows who Stan Lee is, right? So wonderful, wonderful experience. Exhausting, but really, really loved it. And when I was younger, I was lucky enough to attend some concerts. I liked more heavy rock, but I did see Elvis in concert on a New Year's Eve day. That was kind of neat. But I also got to see the Rolling Stones. My favorite concert was Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and Faith No More at the Pontiac Silverdome. Absolutely a fantastic concert. But basically my concert days are kind of over. Oh, see, I keep remembering things. One other thing was I was the coach of the Odyssey of Mind team for our high school and middle school and elementary for many, many years. And our team always did the Balsa building project, which is about as geeky as you can come. So I was a geek, and I really still am a geek. Maybe I'm a prepping geek. I don't know.
So while I pride myself on being able to tap my own maple syrup and gardening and canning and making off-grid bread, etc., while I pride myself on having those prepper type skills, what's some skills that you think that you possess that would benefit a community or a prepper group?
Well, believe it or not, I'm not going to mention my cooking skills, my food preservation skills, my seamstress skills, gardening, none of those, even though I excel at all those. What I think I might bring to a prepping group the most would be, I could be the glue. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm very good at listening to what people say, reading their body language, and trying to figure out common ground and how we can come to a mutual decision and what somebody needs. So I think in the beginning, people will band together and it will be more cohesive. But as things proceed, there'll be various people wanting to take the group in one direction and someone else the other, and various people trying to vie for leadership. And so I think I would be a great negotiator and glue to keep everybody stuck together and on the right path. And if all else fails, I'm really an excellent shot with my guns. And so if there was ultimate disagreement, that could also solve the problem.
Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Prepper Potpourri. And if you haven't already subscribed to her channel, a link to her channel should be appearing in the upper right-hand corner of the screen just about now. Check her out, subscribe, you will not be disappointed, and you'll be seeing several more interview type videos like this coming up in the future. Anyways, folks, hey, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.